I'm going to read the first 5 pages of this 28-page paper here from the Journal of Astronomical History and Heritage, 28/1/97 /124 2025. The ancient Egyptian cosmology vignette, the first visual evidence of the Milky Way and trends in the coffin depictions of the sky goddess Nut. Or Graor is the author from the Institute of Cosmology and Gravitation in Portsmouth. So let's start with the abstract. Here I test the long-held assumption that the ancient Egyptian sky goddess Nut represented the Milky Way by examining Nut's visual depictions on ancient Egyptian coffins. I assemble a catalog of 555 coffin elements, including 118 cosmological vignettes from the 21st and 22nd dynasties, and report several observations. First, the cosmological vignette on the outer coffin of Nesitu ad Jatak Het bears a unique feature, a thick, undulating black curve that bisects Nut's star-studded body and recalls the Great Rift and cleaves the Milky Way into two. Similar undulating curves bisect the astronomical ceilings in the tombs of Seti I and appear as part of depictions of Nut in the tombs of Ramses the 4th, 7th, and 9th. Moreover, the undulating curve resembles similar features identified as the Milky Way on the bodies of Navajo, Hopi, and Zuni spiritual beings. Hence, I argue that the undulating curve is a visual representation of the Milky Way and that it supports a previously suggested identification of Naha, winding waterway, as the galaxy's Egyptian name. Moreover, the rarity of this feature strengthens the conclusion reached by Greer 2024a. Though Nut and the Milky Way are linked, they are not synonymous. Instead of acting as a representation of Nut, the Milky Way is one more celestial phenomenon that, like the sun and the stars, is associated with Nut in her role as the sky. Second, Nut's body is decorated with stars in only a quarter of the cosmological vignette, suggesting that the Egyptians of the 21st and 22nd dynasties may have had a marked preference for the day sky over the night sky. Finally, I discussed the interplay between Nut's cosmological vignette and full-length portraits inside the coffins from the New Kingdom of the Roman period in the context of Nut's combined cosmological and astrological roles as an embodiment of the coffin. Keywords: Milky Way, Nut, cosmology, coffin, kemetic. Introduction: the astronomy and cosmogony of ancient Egypt have been active subjects of research since the inception of Egyptology. For a recent review, see Belmont and Law 2023. Several independent cosmogonies developed in different parts of Egypt. These are the Greek names: Heliopolis, Menepha, Thebes, Hermopolis, and Esna. For a detailed discussion, see Belmont and Law 2023 1 to 22. The Heliopolitan model: the world is surrounded by an abyss of endless inert water. Out of this abyss, the god Atum created himself. He then created Shu and Tefnut, the god of the atmosphere and the goddess of moisture. Both siblings and lovers, Shu and Tefnut, gave birth to Geb and Nut, earth and sky. In turn, Geb and Nut gave birth to the brothers Asar and Set, and the sisters Isis and Nebuhet. Together, these 9 gods are referred to as the Pesach. Though different cosmologies and deities came and went out of the fashion throughout Egyptian history, the gods of the Pesach remained important figures in Egyptian religion and cosmology. Various Egyptian gods are either associated with, symbolize, or directly embody certain celestial objects. The sun, most famously, is personified as several major gods. The scarab-headed Khepri is thought to personify the rising sun. The falcon-headed Ra is the midday sun, and Atum, head of the Pacific, is the setting sun. Allen, 1988, page 10. Similarly, the moon is associated with the god Kansu. while Ceres is associated with the goddess Subdet, also known as Sophis, and certain stars within the constellation Orion are linked to the god Sa. Several attempts have been made to link Nut, this is the glyphs here, with the Milky Way. Davis 1985, Garrett 2024a, Kozlov 1992-1994, Wells 1992. For discussion of these words, see Or 2024a. In the latest such attempt, Or Ibid showed that the textual description of Nut's arms the in the fundamentals of the course in the stars, the original name of the best of the book known popularly as the Book of Nut. For an in-depth translation and discussion of the fundamentals, see von Leven 2007 was constant with the Milky Way's appearance in the Egyptian night sky during the winter months. Gaer 2024 also noted that Nut's role in the transition of the deceased of the afterlife, as described in the spells from the pyramid text and coffin text, and a link to the annual bird migration as described in the fundamentals, was similar to roles attributed to the Milky Way by other cultures. For comparative studies of the Milky Way among different cultures, CEG, Berzin 2010, Berzin 2024, see all these books here. The main point made by Greer 2024, as opposed to previous works, was that while Nut and the Milky Way may have been linked, they were not synonymous with each other. Instead, Greer Ibid suggests that the Milky Way served as a figurative marker of Nut's existence as the sky, highlighting her arms during the winter months and her torso or backbone during the summer. In this paper, I study Nut's cosmological vignettes as it appears on ancient Egyptian coffin and identify the first visual depiction of the Milky Way. A similar effort to study Nut's depictions in funerary papyri is ongoing and will be the subject of a future paper. Depictions of Nut on ancient Egyptian coffins. Nut's depiction on Egyptian coffins stemmed from the myriad roles played by this goddess in the transition of the deceased to the afterlife. For a review, see Hollis 2019. Several spots from the pyramid text carved on the walls of the buried chambers of the pyramids of the Old Kingdom, and the coffin text found on Middle Kingdom coffins call on Nut to shield the deceased with her arms, assemble their bones, nourish them, and give birth to them once more, and guide them up to the sky. Clare 2024a argued that the latter role, which is expressed as Nut reaching her arm out to the deceased and acting as a ladder, helps to link Nut to the Milky Way. Here I focus on Nut's protection of the deceased and her identification with the coffin.